What we're going to do right now is review the most recent Portland VGC regional championships won by Gavin Michaels, and we're going to kind of break down like what teams did well, why they did well. I'm going to talk about my thoughts on each of the top cut teams. For those guys who don't know, I actually expected both Kyogre and like Karadon and Weezing to win the event, and so I'm wondering if more people want to see like regional reviews or maybe like regional prep videos, so you guys can know my thoughts and my insights and my takes, because like long story short, like I totally called those two teams dominating this event, and there were a couple Weezing Karadons in top 8. There was one big Kyogre player, but I think Kyogre's been massively slept on, and it just showed that it is based on this event. So let me know if you guys want to see more content like that in the future, and let's start breaking down some of these teams. We're going to go to pokedata.ovh to take a look at this, because this lets us see the pace as well. Gavin Michaels, really good player, one of the winningest players of all times, as said multiple times on the stream. I don't think that's a word, right? But really cool team here. A funny story, two funny stories here. The first time I played Gavin was, I think it was like 2013. I played him in the last round of Swiss in a regional. Really good player. He's gone on since to become like, you know, multiple. I think this is his 4th regional championship. I think he has like 2 internets actually. A lot of people always forget that I think he won NAIC as a senior as well. So he's been around the scene for a really long time. He's been a big Rain believer, and I think his full storyline into becoming like, you know, a wholesome like adult is just great. I really like what Gavin does, like with his mentality to approaching the game. I think it's great. I think he always has really cool teams. I feel that like every part of me that wants to play the game correctly is how he looks at the game. Another funny story is these six Pokemon. Maybe we change the Calyrex for one thing. I almost took these exact 6 to Worlds. I tested for about 2 months on a core of Grimmsnarl, Fluttermane, Amoonguss, Kyogre, Basculegion, and remember this is Reg G, you only get 1 restricted, and Cresselia. Remember, I took Cresselia to Worlds last year, but these 6, it's really funny how it's almost like a team that I wanted to take to Worlds. The Kyogre set was exactly the same. I actually think Basculegion is a great check in theory to things like Zenta, which Gavin talked about, and also against Calyrex, like both Calyrex forms. You threaten a lot of them, and you do a lot of cool stuff with Basculegion. If you have that neutral Terra to make sure you're not weak against Bolt either, it's great against Bolt in the late game. So I actually think Basculegion is like really slept on. It's very cool to see that mon finally coming back into the meta. One of the reasons why I want to say I didn't bring Basculegion is because you're probably thinking like, oh, that like big Life Orb rain boosted wave crash, that probably OHKOs Calyrex Ice. It doesn't. But they don't know that it doesn't because they haven't run the calcs. But that was enough to disincentivize me from running it way back when for, you know, Worlds last year. So I think this is really cool tech, and if you actually take a look at like what the Calyrex does, a Trick Room Cresselia with like Lunar Blessing, low-key does the same thing as that Calyrex. So it's funny that it's like the exact same team, but I think Kyogre's been a really good mon in theory for like a while now. We started to see a few Kyogre teams top cut a couple of the events over the course of the past couple weeks. I think a couple of those like French Rain Kyogre teams with Kyogre Zacian. You can see one of them I have right here with like, again, Mystic Water, Zacian, like a good Tailwind setter potential. I think Gavin wanted to go a little bit more of the Trick Room route, but like Amoonguss is always standard on Kyogre teams. You know, Kyogre, this is another variant that did well, which is with Pow and Moon and stuff like that. These were the Kyogre teams people were used to seeing, and so you can actually break holes in these by like taking out the Power, taking out the Roaring Moon, or taking out the Ursh. When we take a look back at Gavin's team, there aren't any real holes in that team. Maybe the Basculegion could overextend a little bit, but I think you only really bring that for a couple niche matchups. It's there to like make them respect the ability to Swift Swim, but not really go into it. And then the Flutter is just such a good mon in this format with that sash. Like, you can taunt their, you know, Roar users and Prison users, any sort of like Spore users. You can kind of just like lead Flutter and Cali into a lot of matchups, and they have to respect both the Flutter variants and the Basculegion variants while still respecting your ability to just like lead Grim and Cali or lead Grim and Ogre and just like GG, shake my hand, win the game, right? I think it's really cool. I also really like that Gavin used Sucker Punch on the Grim. So I think that Kyogre is really good. And I have a couple Kyogre teams, like you just saw, that I'm kind of still testing right now to maybe take to NAIC. That being said, I want to say thank you to Kens for dropping the sub. That being said, I think that Kyogre is probably going to get a lot of pushback moving forward. Heavy Kyogre usage will eventually trigger people in using more Raging Bolt, which will trigger people in using more Ursaluna, which will trigger people in using more Pelipper or Urshiwater, Water, which again will trigger more Raging Bolt, and that's going to be the meta preview, I think, going into NAIC on ladder for the next few weeks. So if there's something that you know that's good against Ursaluna, Raging Bolt, Urshiwater, Water, and Pelipper, that'd be a really good mon to maybe start tinkering with and adding to your teams. That's not necessarily something like a Rillaboom because you still have weaknesses to a lot of those mons, but there might be something that could work against that sort of stuff. I just want to say thank you to everyone dropping the sub. Let me know if you guys like these sort of like regional breakdowns where I kind of give my thoughts on the team and what they did well. But I want to say I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Is that 3 subs? How do we feel about Brick Break Urshifu? I don't think that's good at all. First of all, Urshifu goes with like Surging Strikes or Wicked Blow just to break through screens anyways and just blow through things. The problem with like Brick Break and Psychic Fangs as moves is unless you are KOing the screen setter with those moves, right, which is hard, they will just reset the screen and they will say thank you very much for those screens. I really appreciate it. Now you might think, well, the point of it is to break the screen with the Ursh and then hit with your actual teammate, right? See, the problem with that is you could just hit them with the Surging Strikes and then hit them with your teammate and stick with the KO and not be locked into like potential Brick Break or stuff like that. So Brick Break is not very viable. The only time you like see Psychic Fangs be good is like on something that already like stabs stuff like Solgaleo and stuff like that, which did well at this event too. So yeah, let me know if you guys agree or disagree with that. But I don't really think that Brick Break's like really that optimal in this format. In singles, Brick Break is potentially a lot better. So that being said, I really like Gavin's team. I'm happy to see Kyogre do well. This is the exact same Kyogre set. Anyone that works with me on Patreon knows that I've been pushing this exact Kyogre set for like 2 months. Only water moves. And that Hydro Pump is so important on this mon because you need to be able to disrespect Zenta. There aren't that many Lunalas right now, and Gavin's team does such a good job of pinning Lunala from even existing, right? They have to deal with Sucker Punch from Grim, Shadow Ball Flutter, Basket Weege and Last Respects, Spores from the Amooks and stuff like that. So realistically, even if they have the Lunala against a team like this, they're like, crap, I have to Terra. Right? And if they have to Terra, you know what can't Terra? That Maridon, your Kali wins the game, right? You know what else can't, like, you guys see the lines? It's pretty nice. I actually think like Gavin's team is very cool. And it's a different take on, like we were talking about, these like Roaring Moon, like Urshifu variants. So I think it's a good adaptation of the meta. And it's one of those teams that's like so simple, but effective. I just think it's really good. It has all the tools you need to make a really deep tournament run. If you have the skills to pay the bills and you're a really solid player, a team like this was perfectly primed for this tournament. I think it's very good. Let's take a look at the next team. This is going to be Zhang's team. I've played against them before. This is former Wisconsin regional champion. I think we've only played like once or twice. I played them most recently at San Antonio regionals in 2024. I won that game, but I had a good matchup. It was kind of like a race to the finish team where like I was running like, you know, Roaring Moon, Weezing, like Flutter, and just shoving things in. And he was also running something very aggressive. Mental Syndrome, how goes it? And you can see the aggressive tendencies are still on display in this team. I think it's a really cool core. This was the other team that I had predicted to do well in like my inner circle. I really think Karadon and Weezing is good. There were 2 Karadon Weezings in top 8, I believe. So really good aggressive pilot using a really good aggressive team. It takes a lot of skill and you know, balls to run like a Shadow Rider without Sash, Spooky Plate, Dark Terra. It's also kind of cool to see like the Dark Terra with like a ghost boosting item. I think a lot of people aren't that reserved and they put like the ghost boosting item on like a Ghost Terra and it's like really hard to make work. But I think this team's very cool. I think that Chi-Yu is actually, believe it or not, like the main mon on this team that makes everything work. Chi-Yu works with Karadon. Chi-Yu works with like Calyrex. If anything, like Chi-Yu should be a mon that's coming to like every single matchup. And so if you're wanting to like play against this sort of team, you got to really respect the Chi-Yu more than anything. Because like, yeah, they might go Karadon. Yeah, they might go Shadow Rider. They might go Weezing, but they're always going to have the Chi-Yu, right? Because it works with every one of these mons to some extent. So that being said, if you're trying to lock up this team, that's the mon that you want to deal with. Use your Terras to defend against Chi-Yu and other stuff instead of the other threats. That being said, I really think this is cool tech. I like the team a lot. Yeah, it's all up. I believe it. Yeah, they posted a rental of the whole team if you guys want to use this. It's all up. Super good player, by the way. Super good, nice, wholesome player. I love seeing all their posts after every single event. They try so hard at every single event. They document a lot of the process along the way on Twitter. So yeah, think about checking out some of their stuff. But I think it's a really cool team. Flame Charge Karadon, obviously the ability shield is going to make it so it still sets the sum, which means it gets the Orichalcum Pulse boost, even when you're paired next to Weezing. Weezing, we see, has Taunt on this set too, and it's like a physical Weezing. Very, very cool. I'm surprised to see that it is physical Weezing, not like a special one. That being said, I think it's really, really cool. And we saw one other player not use Taunt on their Weezing. I think it was Justin Wan. And they got like absolutely bodied by, I think, Gavin in like, it might have been top 8 or top 4. And it just shows how important Taunt is on Weezing for these formats. So it's really, really cool. I think there's a lot of like good tech on this team between like the 50-50 defensive Terras. Like obviously you have the standard Terras like Karadon with like fire and Walking Wake with water. But then you have like the Chi-Yu can go Ghost to block Fake Outs, or the Calyrex can go Dark to block an Astral. And you don't really know where that's going. So I think it's a really, really cool team, and I expected Weezing Karadon to do well, and we've seen a lot of like AV Wake. Wake's not like super bulky, but it really allows you to like leverage that advantage with Snarl. Makes Wake a good defensive pivot for this team. So yeah, I think it's a really, really good team, and I was not surprised to see it do well. I like this core more than like the Dozo variants, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But I would expect going into NAIC, we're going to see a lot more of this. I think the only slot that needs to be optimized here moving forward to be adapted for what we're going to see at NAIC is this one. Maybe you change a couple moves on a couple of these, but like I think the Shadow Rider needs some sort of overhaul. I still like Sash Shadow Rider on these teams, but that's just me. Maybe they were cooking something or they played correctly, you know, but I really still like Sash. There's that Diamond drop in the sub, yo. Diamond had a crazy run at Portland Regionals. They fought you know, top 16 Worlds player in their first round. They fought a bunch of other really good players. They had a crazy stacked run. Thank you so much for the sub, my friend. Hopefully you're getting home safe. But yeah, I think that like Kyogre and Karadon were the two teams I expected personally to do well, and they ended up getting first and second in the event. And one thing that we're notably seeing in this top 8 is that there are no Maridons in top 8. I think people drastically over-respected Maridon moving forward. And, you know, I still think Maridon is the best Pokemon in, you know, Reg I. But that being said, it's pretty obvious that, like, you know, just like how there's a lot of Shadow Riders in Top Cut here, people in previous formats like over-respected Shadow Rider. There was like 5, you had like 5 Shadow Rider checks on like every single team, and now Maridon's getting that same treatment. So like Maridon obviously was like around here a little bit. I'm seeing a bunch of Maridons like right here in like the top 32, and you know, you just didn't really like all that Maridon hate just kind of kept on a Top Cut, right? And so I think Maridon's still really, really good. And I think what made these top 8 teams so good was their ability to just lock out Maridon. Like this says Maridon, this basically forces the Maridon's teammate to have to bear the burden of Terra. They have to terrestrialize their Kali-I water or their Lunala into like fairy or water to block the Kyogre, which means that their Maridon gets pinned by Kali-I. This theme says like there's no abilities for the Maridon, it's hard to get their engine going. Another Kyogre team, like crazy, right? This team, you know, this is the standard core. The Tinglu is pretty good against a lot of the Maridon stuff. Tinglu is a great adaptation for the meta. Aaron Brock, great player. Standard like Bolt. I think Bolt is actually a mon that I'm really, really liking moving forward to NAIC. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But you can see how all these teams put pressure on Maridon in situations that like it hasn't really felt pressured in before. Even if we take a look at like a couple of like the, you know, regionals in like Germany or Australia and stuff like that, Maridon wasn't as pressured. The thing about Maridon that makes it a good mon is because it can always just lead, threaten to KO things, and Volt Switch out. And all of these teams said, you have to pay a price for that Volt Switch out. They really threatened the teammates of the Maridon to force their resources, which allowed these better players, like the cream of the crop best players, to leverage an advantage there. And so that's something that we can like recognize as a pattern to maybe see if we're going to see a lot of Maridon or not a lot of Maridon at NAIC. Because I think Maridon was viewed as like the safe option. And what set these top teams apart is their ability to say like, you're not safe. So that being said, we're going to take a look at this Kyogre team. This is Carrie D or Ortona. I didn't watch any of their games in the tournament. But we can see their teams right here. I fought against this team twice on ladder this morning. Give me one sec. Did I play? That's this team right here. Actually, I have a replay going up against this exact team. So this is the team I'm thinking about taking to NAIC. I think that's the exact team. Ursh with Life Orb? Yeah, so it was Life Orb Ursh. So this is my actual first attempt at seeing this team in action. I had not seen anything about this team, and I'm like, that team looks really, really weird. You know, we have like the Life Orb Ursh. Let's just take a look back at this here. We got the Life Orb Ursh with the booster Jugulus, standard Kyogre with the Mystic Water. But like one thing you always want to do when you go into like a matchup is like if you have Wide Guard, see if like what their AoEs are and then see what their single target options are. And if their single target options aren't good into like the rest of your team, then you can just leverage advantage easy. It's the Never Melt Ice Kali-I, the AV Rilla, and then like the standard Amoonguss with Water Terra. So that being said, like I said, this is my very first time. I woke up this morning right before starting the stream. I played a game. I always like to play a game like right when I wake up and get on my computer just to see if like I'm in a good mood today. And yeah, this is just how it went. So if we play sound off right here, we can kind of just review the replay a little bit. They lead with Rillaboom and Urshi Rapid Strike, and I lead with Raging Bolt Kali-I. Now, my Raging Bolt set is kind of weird. It's Booster Energy Special Attack with, like, Rising Voltage, and I really just looked at this person's team, I looked at the pace, and I was like, they don't have an answer for Raging Bolt, right? If you want to lead with Jugulus and set Tailwind, you don't set Tailwind versus this. I want to go Trick Room anyways, right? So I can just threaten it with like a Rising Voltage or a Thunderclap if you want to Snarl, right? If you want to go Urshi Water, it's not sashed. Yes, it can go Grass Terra, but like I threaten that there. Is that another sub? Yo, thank you so much. I think someone's going to drop a sub in just a sec. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Mushroom, appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for all the Prime subs. I just want to say thank you. If you guys want to see more content like this, where we kind of review and analyze what did well at the events, please think about letting me know. We see a Raging Bolt, it's going to force them to go into, like, a Fake Out here. And then I don't care what a Life Orb Urshi does. Like, are you going to close combat? I don't care. Are you going to go for, like, a Surging Strikes? Like, I don't care. Like, you see how, like, if you want to Fake Out here, you're also at the risk of eating a Glacial Lance in that, which means you have to Terra there. And if you have to Terra there, you can't Terra your Kyogre, right? So you see, like, this is where I think this is a really cool team. Obviously, the person that made it, it's probably better than the person I'm playing in the 1500s. But you know, we're leveraging advantage here. Is that Boss Dog gifting a sub? Yo, thank you so much. Holy moly, you guys are freaking champions out here. Holy moly, thank you for the sub gift, Boss Dog. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And hopefully this is helping you guys learn a little bit more about how to like analyze the meta and deal with teams. Like this is another thing. I always talk to you guys about like you don't need to watch regionals. You can kind of just look at the pace that do well and then play the games and learn the matchups for yourself. And this is the perfect example. Like this is my very first time ever seeing this team, which means if I want to find a way how to beat it, I have to rely on my own strength as a player with what I know about other matchups to solve for this before actually reviewing it, right? So just going into this game right here. So we lead off like this. And so, again, we don't have to waste Terra. We don't have to do anything. I don't have to pull the trigger. We just soak the Fake Out with Bolt. We obviously tried to Thunderclap, which they see right there. We did that deliberately, by the way. We Thunderclapped the Ursh because I'm thinking to myself, if you want to Fake Out here to stop TR, you just lose your Ursh because your Ursh, what is it going to Aqua Jet? If you want to go, like, Fake Out here, Aqua Jet one of these guys, like, I don't care. I wish I could stay and play some tennis. Yeah, always appreciate your content. Yo, thank you so much. If you're going to NAIC, please think about letting me know. I'm definitely going to be down there. I'm flying into St. Louis, so, you know, maybe we'll be able to meet up, right? But, yeah, I definitely went with the Thunderclap because, like, if you force the Terra here or here, Kyogre just loses the Bolt. So they went for a fat close combat, take a stat drop, take a Life Orb tick, and we just get to rip a Glacial Lance. You're probably thinking, why didn't you TR? Why wouldn't you TR here? Their team is so fast. It has this Ursh, it has Rilla, it has Kyogre's honestly faster than these guys. Yeah, it's Jugulus. I don't want to lose to Amoonguss in the back. I don't know if they have Amoonguss in the back. And also, by leading something like this, it really makes it so if they wanted to pivot out here into something like Amoonguss to block a Thunderclap or a Rising Voltage, they would have just swapped right in on a fat Glacial Lance to win the game, right? They lose that guy for turn 1, and now you can see they're potentially at range of a +1, Glacial Lance into a minus stat dropped Urshi Water. So we're actually in a great spot here. They sent it their Kali-I, and so I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, this means the last month's Ogre. You can generally assume based off, like, how people are playing, what they're going to send out. I really think that they could have sent Ogre out right there. But again, Ogre with Grass Terra, you see how, like, this core just kind of melts it? Like, what are you going to do? Terra? Not Terra? You're going to lose to the Thunderclap, or you're going to lose to the Lance. So in this situation, we don't have to do anything spectacular. We go for Thunderclap and a Kali because, like, why would we Thunderclap and Ursh? If they were to use an Aqua Jet, that would make our Thunderclap fail. So we make a little bit of a read. We eat a crit. Surging Strikes there. They didn't Aqua Jet. But at the same time, like, I'm not threatened. This is Never Melt Ice Kali, but it doesn't even do any damage to us. We're able to reply back with, I think, a KO on their Ursh? Yeah. Great stuff, right? So we traded Raging Bolt 1 for 2, and we have a +2 attack boost here. That's absolutely amazing. They come in with Kyogre here, and this is where I think I make a really, really good play in this matchup. Zacian's going to be able to leverage advantage versus both of those mons, but I don't. The only way we lose is eating, like, a heavy spout. So in this situation, you may have also noticed last turn that their Kali-I outsped my Kali-I. And I think that's actually really important to note, because what we can do is this. We can drop a Protect Zacian to not die, not lose the 50-50. Like, imagine a world where they go Protect Kyogre, Trick Room, and I, like, attack there, and then they just, like, bully my Zacian with, like, high horsepower, and then, like, they just spout me and lose the game. We double Protect, see what they want to do. They went for a Hydro Pump into my Kali, and they Trick Room themselves. And when they Trick Room themselves in this situation, what happens is we can Glacial Lance to severely chunk that Kyogre. They go for a Glacial Lance back. It doesn't KO either, because they're only at +1. They go for that Weak Spout, which doesn't KO Zacian. And again, I want to talk about this. If they were to, like, Hydro Pump there or do something else, they would have left the Kali-I up, and I just would have been able to Glacial Lance again for win, right? So Zacian's able to now finish off the Kyogre, and then I bring up my very last Mon. So you see how we let them Trick Room there? Because we saw that our Kali undersped their Kali. We just soak the Lance, sturdy proc Ogerpon here, and then win the game with a Ivy Cudgel. It was definitely a close game. I have one Mom with 1 health, but, like, this was conditioned and, you know, set up as trades from basically, I think, like, the second turn of the game. So I felt really good about this game. And again, I played it at like 5 in the morning, right? So we're going into game 2. Now, I think, in my opinion, this is going to force something a little bit different. They might still want to leverage Ursh, but I was thinking, like, they could go Amoonguss here. Like, they saw that, like, if they want to still go into that same Trick Room mode to underspeed my Zacian and stuff like that, this could force Amoonguss here. So I'm going to be respectful of Amoonguss in, like, a game 2 situation. There's the Kali-I, there's the Ogre, and so this tells me right here, see how I respected the Amoonguss being able to, like, redirect with, like, a Grass Mon that makes it immune to Spore, but also at the same time, like, Ogerpon's great into both of these. And so I think that Ogerpon is actually, like, the main Mon that this team features more than anything. I think Ogerpon is, like, the mascot of this team. It's also funny that Ogerpon is, like, the mascot of NAIC this season. But that being said, Ogerpon is really, really good at leveraging advantage versus Kali-I and Kyogre. If we take a hover over here, we see that it's a Grass Terra Kali-I on this team and a Grass Terra Ogre. So one of these guys is going to Terra. You're either going to Terra the Kali-I to block the Ivy Cudgel, or you're going to Terra the Kyogre to block the Power Whip. And in either situation, my Kali-I just bullies you. I think this is a really, really good situation for our team. And this also tells us, because they went, like, full aggro, like, super mad, like, that tells us they don't have the Amoonguss. They probably have Jugulis in the back to enable Ogre after they lose their Kyogre. And then I'm thinking either Rilla or Ursh. I'm thinking it's probably Ursh, based off the lead that they've told us here. So that being said, Kali's Ogerpon's leading up, and we don't actually know if we outspeed this Kyogre, because again, I didn't see any games with this team on stream. What we're doing is very similar to what we did in the very first game. They're dropping a Protect Ogre, and we're double protecting here to see if they want to drop a TR. If you want a TR, that's absolutely fine. They just rip the Lance, I think that's okay. So in this situation, you see they go for the Grass Terra Ogre, because they know that Ogre is the only thing they actually have to hit the Zacian. So we know that they're going to do that. This is not a read, this is conditioning. It's, like, slightly different. And we just bop the Kali turn 1. Turn 1 and done. Easy peasy. Water Spout, yeah, I've seen that one before. Our Kali's EV Train lived that in every single situation, and we just OHKO, right? And so this turn looks like, wow, that's a crazy read, that's a crazy play. It's like, no. If you Terra over there, right, and you, like, let's say you do Terra this guy, you still lose it to the, to my Kali, and then now your Ogre can't Terra, and I just come in with Bolt, or I just come in with Zacian or something like that. Or Ogerpon, like, might not have died, and, like, Ogerpon just hit you with an Ivy Cudgel, right? So, and it's one of those situations where this was the right play that they did, but we just targeted correctly and won, right? And you guys can recognize these same patterns too if you play enough games with your teams. I've probably paid about, like, 60 plus, like, best of 3s with this team. They could have also protected with their Kali there and went for, like, a Spout, but again, that's a hard play to read. They don't actually get any KOs for that. They still have to take the Lance, and then again, even if they don't waste the Terra, like, Bolt's still in the back. I think Zacian is in the back here too. I think I have Zacian in this one, but I might have brought Pelipper, but we'll see what I bring here. We get a double KO on the second turn of the game. That's absolutely amazing. And then there's the Ursh and the Jugulis. Did the crit matter? Crit did matter, but at the same time, like, it only mattered for keeping Ogerpon alive here. We're actually gonna, so this is a really important. So you say, did crit matter? What was gonna happen here is I was gonna Ivy Cudgel there, right? And then I was going to Lance. So the Ogre would have still been massively chipped. This guy would have been at like 30%. And then what would have happened was we would have just Ivy Cudgel them again. What actually happens is, because we got a double KO, we're here in this turn, and then these two actually can't do anything against these. You can go for, like, an Aqua Jet here, an Aqua Jet here, a Hurricane here. There's no board state where we actually get to keep either of these Mons. So what we actually have to do here is just fodder both. And the way to do this is to follow me, make the Jugulis go into that, and then like this. We tried to go with, like, protect, follow me, to make sure that if they wanted the Aqua Jet, it would redirect there, and I get to keep this guy and then send out something like Bolt to go Thunderclap Glance, and that'd be nice. But there wasn't a board state where we actually really kept those mons, but it lets me get a free pivot into both of these guys. I brought the Pelipper, not the Zacian, and Pelipper's great here. So you can see in this situation, they have to play defensive because Thunderclap, they don't have Sash. They already wasted their Terra. Thunderclap just absolutely bodies Bolt, and I should have clicked Hurricane there, but you know what I mean? Like, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, nothing they can really do about it. So, yeah, Raging Bolt just honestly, like, solves this whole matchup for us. Really, really solid mon. I think Raging Bolt is a very, very underrated mon in this format right now. And going back to, like, this team, I think it's a really good team call. I think Kyogre is really, really good. My team, though, like I said, though, I expected Kyogre to do well, which means my team has checks for Kyogre, right? I really, really respect the archetype. I respect the mon, which means, like, I'm not dropping games to it, right? Yo, how goes it? Is your Ogre 2v2 speed and 2v2 attack jolly? Ogerpon? No, it's actually, like, full bulk. It's, like, full bulk. I think we have 76 points. I shouldn't say full bulk. Maybe I'll show you my set right here. It's going to be right here. It's full attack, but then it's like heavy bulk. That's a better way to put it. 76 points. And I need to optimize a lot of these EV spreads, but yeah, they were super dead. As long as I got the crit there. So it's a cool set. But I think this is a fun team. I think it's definitely respectable. We're going to see a lot more pushback from Ogre, or pushback into Ogre moving forward. I think this is going to force, like we said, this is going to force more Raging Bolts, which is going to force more ground types like Land versus Ursaluna, which will in turn force more mons like Urshifu, Water, Pelipper, things like that, which will in turn force more Raging Bolts, and that's a good, healthy, like, 3-check system going on moving forward into NAIC. Let's check out the next team that did well, Aaron Brock's team. This is the guy that I believe is famous for using Giratina in a lot of formats. SoCal player, very, very solid player. Really like the Tinglu on this team, and you can see, very similar to what I just talked about. I'm using Booster Bolt with, like, Electric Terra. They're using Magnet, right? It's the same type of idea. Like, me and him functioning at the same wavelength, where I was like, wow, Raging Bolt with, like, damage multiplier and Double Dip Terra, like, actually just, like, solves this format right now for where we were in Portland. Like, at post-Milwaukee, post, German regionals, Raging Bolt solved the format. Like, take a look at what did well. Like, Karadon, Kyogre, like, Raging Bolt was the call for this tournament. So it's cool that Aaron did, like, really, really good with this team. I think the Tinglu was a great adaptation from the standard Ursalunas we would see, because it's an Ursaluna that, regular Ursalunas, they want to come in, pivot in on, like, an Astro Barrage and then, like, kind of wall the Shadow Rider and take things out. This guy just walls the Shadow Rider and KOs it with, like, Snarl. It's, like, fusing a bunch of cool stuff together with, like, Snarl, Stone Edge there for Ho-Oh. I think the Tinglu was a very, very good mon on this team. And even though you have, like, mons like Raging Bolt and Calyrex that you're also cutting your own special attack to, like, Raging Bolt and Cali are so good that it doesn't matter. So I think it's a really, really solid mon. My dude Walking Wake also had a chance in the sun. Yeah, I think that Walking Wake's top cut, like, 2 big tournaments recently. I think it's a very, very good mon. I really like the Snarl on it. Snarl's just really good. I really want to say I really like Aaron's Shempow set with Taunt and Ice Spinner. Very, very cool stuff. I love the Life Orb Stellar Terra Pow too. It's the same set that I run when I run Pow. It's the same thing. I think on this one I have, like, Stellar Terra Crunch. And so I think I might change that to Taunt for testing. And in this one, I'm using Ghost Terra. But, like, I really, really like the Stellar Terra. Stellar Terra is my favorite Terra type. I think it's a really, really cool mechanic. I think more people should use it. And I think that just their team was just very, very well made. I think they made a misplay on, like, the last turn of their top 4 game. I think they should have been in the final. But I didn't really watch that much of it. This team was just really, really solid. It was a great check into the meta. It played the game without any sort of real speed control. Isn't that ridiculous? There's no Tailwind. There's no Trick Room. There's, like, I outspeed you. I have a lot of priority. I have a lot of damage mitigation. It's good, honest outplay for, like, 15 rounds of Pokemon. Very, very cool stuff. Happy to see this team do well. I think this is a hard team to pilot, but I do think that, like, we might see a lot of this stuff. 8 missed Thunderclaps. I didn't watch the regional. I watched, like, 2 or 3 games tops, but you can see how this team plays just based off of how it goes, right? So that being said, let's take a look at, like, the next team. It's Karadon, Weezing, Dozo. And this is the standard version. This is from Justin Wan. There's a couple actual players named Justin Wan that play VGC. It's kind of funny. When I saw this person in the standings, I'm like, the Justin Wan that I know isn't playing this. And so it's not. It's a different one. But the notable thing to take away from this team is that this Weezing doesn't have Taunt, and it was just abused by Gavin. I think that's one of the games that I did watch. It doesn't have Taunt, which means you can just come in, abuse with Amoonguss. This team has, like, a massive weakness to Amoonguss. You have Grass Terror here, which is going to be forcing that. But, like, there's no Sleep Talker safety goggles here. you can't redirect Grassmons. You can get slept here. Like, Water Terra Amoonguss just comes into this team and says, like, you don't get to play the game. Which, shoutouts to Justin for being able to, like, get top 4 in a tournament without fighting a good Water Terra Amoonguss player. I can't believe that. So, yeah, Justin Wong is a Street Fighter player. There's two VGC players named Justin Wong, though. So, yeah, I think this is, like, the fact that they actually piloted this all the way to the, top 4 of the regional is ridiculous, because, like, if we take a look at, like, all the other top cut teams, like, there are Amoonguss, like, everywhere. Like, this one's Fairy, but, like, Amoonguss, like, there's Amoonguss everywhere. It's Amoonguss country out here. So I think it's really cool. It just shows how strong Karadon and Weezing are, how good they are at oppressing the meta. Really like the normal Terra Life Orb Shadow Rider. I think that's very, very nice. The Pollen Puff is always, like, underrated on this team, being able to, like, Pollen Puff your Karadon after a big Flare Blitz or something. It also helps you check, like, Furgraphs. That's another thing. I think Furgraph was just, like, completely absent from this tournament. I don't know what happened, but, like, Furgraph is gone, and I don't know how that happened. That Mon is still so good. But yeah, I think the combination of Toxic Spikes and Poison Gas on this Weezing really sets up for that, like, body press order up, like, slow Dozo to win the game with sub. I'm thinking about maybe using sub Dozo at NAIC as well. Very, very cool Mon. I think people don't have matchups for Dozo right now, and that's kind of, if we take a look at, like, what's doing well. We take a look at, like, Gavin's team, this other Rain team. Like, people just are leaving their Dozo matchups at home. And they're assuming that there is no Dozo because there's so much Maridon. And what Dozo says is, like, check please. Like, I have a Grass Terra, and that means the Maridon can't check me, which means nothing else on the team can check me if I get, like, an order up or two. Especially when you move in that sub, a lot of people use the aspects of their team that pin other Mons. I'm going to use an example of Incineroar. Incineroar comes in and intimidates Kali Eyes. You can put an Intimidate on Dozo. This Dozo doesn't care. They then go for a Will-O-Wisp into things like Kali Eye. And you would think that correlates into going for a Will-O-Wisp into a Dozo. This one sets a sub. And so you see, like, those soft checks they have for Dozo that overlap with Dozo's similarities to Kali Eye don't work here. And that's where, like, sub Dozo is, like, a good check into this meta here. So yeah, that's just my thoughts here. I think that it's a solid team. I think that Dozo is very, very underrated. I really hope that we don't see a lot of Dozo, like, prep going forward into NAIC, because, like, I still think that there could be a couple good Dozo runs in top 8, because it's just a Mon that people are, there's so much Shadow Rider here, and Dozo honestly has a great matchup into Shadow Rider, because, like, Astrals just don't do anything after you get your unaware boost, and you go protect, sub, do that 8 times, and they're out of Astrals, and they can't do anything after that. That's just my thoughts on sub Dozo. Is just a good call for the meta. So here we go. We're going into Giovanni's team. This is the first Lunala here. This is Power Herb Lunala. Cool stuff with Ursaluna. This is kind of like what we see on, like, ladder a lot. When you just queue in, like, a game in, like, the 1500s on Showdown, this is what you're going to be seeing. Life Orb Karadon, Fire Terra, Ghost Terra Luna with AoE, like, Water Terra Brute Bonnet. Like, this team is just incredibly standard. Scarf Chi-Yu, Sash Flutter. I'm not surprised to see one of these in top 8. I think it's just a really solid team. If you're looking for just teams to play to, like, learn the meta, this team is kind of like, I'm going to call it like a red mage. You have, like, a little bit of coverage in, like, every matchup. Like, Karadon has, like, a Sun mode. You have, like, a little bit of Trick Room stuff going on with the Lunala, Brute Bonnet, Ursaluna. You have a fast mode with Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu can be enabling the Flutter or the Karadon. I just think it's a solid team that, like, if you're a fan of, like, Trick Room 2-2-2 comps, like, this is a really solid one. I think the only changes to this team are, like, the Stellar Terra Flutter main. I think that's a really good call on this team, being able to go for that big Shadow Balls in situations where they're not really expecting it. Same thing for the Moonblast. Stellar Terra Flutter main does OHKO most Maridons. So if they don't want to click that Terra, you just get them right off the rip. We talked about Maridon not making a top cut, and how, like, basically the reason why Maridon wasn't in top cut is all of, like, these top teams up here just excelled at making Maridon have to pay a price to utilize its safe pivot potential. Same thing, like, that's the reason why this team's up here is because, like, this Stellar Terra Flutter main makes the Maridon Terra turn 1 every single game, which means they can't Terra something else, which means, like, their Maridon eventually will lose to something else, right? They have to go Fairy Terra, which means they start to gain a weakness to the Chi-Yu, stuff like it spirals from there. You force your opponent's Terra on the first turn on one of their highly valued Pokemon, and then you just bully. Yep. Maridon was targeted. That's how it works. I think it's a great team, though. I'm probably going to play some games with this on ladder sometime this week. Really like the Lunala set. Let's see. Next up is Len. Len's the last person in top 8. This is the guy that normally is one of the casters. historically done really good with like Amoonguss, Garchomp, T-Tar stuff. And so it's funny, I was watching just a little bit of the interview. They're like, are there any similarities between like this like Tropagos core and the way you like to play T-Tar? And I'm like, yeah, it's the same team, man. It's the exact same team. It's like you just sit there with your Chunk and Amoonguss, right? It makes sense that Len would do really good with this team. I think people like to think that he's like a one-trick pony, but I think he's like a multiple regional champion. I think he won like a bunch of events in like 2014 and 15. He's been around forever. Guy can play anything, but this team is definitely something that suits like his play style. It's a really hard team to play because you have to like really value like the fake out pivots and the cycling with the intimidates and the grassy terrain. Like you're going to time almost every single game with this team, so it takes a lot of like mental resources. And I will say, they were talking a little bit on stream like how hard it is to play this for like 8 rounds in day 1 and then like the same amount in like day 2. But the issue is like once you get to like round 4 or round 5 and like the games start getting really, really stressful, you got to realize the fact that you're playing this is exactly what your opponents don't want to see. They don't want to expend those mental resources either. The only difference is you're the one that's conditioning them. You're the one that's conditioned to deal with it, right? Yeah, so I really, really like this. I think Tropagos is a great mon. Tropagos, I expected at least one in potential top court, like a deep run. I think Tropagos is a mon that I still think we could see massive value at NAIC or Worlds. I don't know why people have not like broken this mon off yet into like finding a situation where Tropagos just wins the game. I think Alex Kwan did like a really good job with his Specs Tropagos in Vancouver this year. I think it was Vancouver. He lost in top 4, I think, but he got top 4 with like that Specs Pagos, and we were so close to just finding a Pagos team that just like solved the meta. I think Pagos is one of those mons that if you use it in the right situation, you can make certain matchups like unlosable. And like I think Len's team tried to do that against Maridon. He tried to make the Maridon matchup unlosable, which in turn is why they are in top cut. I think this team has a little bit of a bad matchup against some of the Kyogre variants running around because like Mystic Water Kyogre makes it so you can't pivot in Amoonguss. And you just two-shot the Amoonguss because it's not Citrus, it's Rocky Helmet. And so, like, if you leverage those Kyogres correctly, you can actually bully out this sort of team. But that being said, very, very solid team. Len's a great player, and I think this is just a high skill ceiling team that they played basically to perfection to get a really, really good run. And I think they also locked up their Worlds invite with this, so very, very good stuff. I'm trying to think if there's any inconsistencies or weird things that I see here. No, that's a great team. I think Pagos is really cool. So those are the top 8 teams. We can take a look at like what else was down here. There was a few Groudon teams. I think Groudon is similar to Kyogre. Like those big, chonky 90 base speed mons with Weather and AoE. Those were a good call to this event. Both of them are good into Maridon because they forced the Maridon down a specific set of flowcharts. Groudon Maridon's cool. I think Jumpluff is another like really, really solid team. This is the guy. Is this ZGR? Yeah, this is ZGR, right? I fought them most recently at Portland Regionals in the last round of 2024 where I won that one using a Whimsicott Terrakion team, but I think they're a really, really creative player. Again, we're starting to see these Raging Bolts. I think that's the one thing that, like, if I had to, like, scream from the top of my lungs the mon that was, like, the answer to this format that's not a restricted, it's Raging Bolt. Like, Raging Bolt can just do everything in this format. You saw in the 2 replays that we reviewed, too, like, Raging Bolt is the second restricted on like a lot of teams. It locks up Ursh. It punishes all of the common partners from Maridon, right? So if you have a teammate that puts pressure on Maridon and a Raging Bolt, you pressure them right into doing what you want, and you bully the Maridon's teammate with Raging Bolt. Easy peasy. Like the Maridon sets the story for the Bolt. It's similar to how Pokeaim top cut Milwaukee Regionals with that like Iron Treads team. Like you basically use Treads as like an anti-Maridon option, but I think like Bolt is just better at doing that because it deals with Urshifu just a little bit easier. So I think there are a lot of really cool things that we saw from this event. I think this was a really, really solid standout event for Shadow Rider too. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Shadow Riders in top 8. I think that's probably the most that we've ever seen Shadow Rider do. So I wonder if this is going to translate into an over-respect of Kyogre and Shadow Rider. I wonder what that would look like. I think that just means we're going to see more Fluttermane moving forward because Sash Fluttermane is just good into both of those. But that being said, we saw a good variety of stuff. We saw a couple Karadon Weezings, we saw a couple Zentas, a couple Ogres, a couple Kali Eyes, one Lunala, one Tropagos. Groudon's just right outside the top 8. I think it's a good, healthy meta right now. I don't think there's anything that's too overpowered. And I also think that we're going to see a drop off of the Leech Seed Cali. I think that's, if I were to give like a prep for NAIC, I think we're going to see a drop off of Leech Seed Cali, because I think we're going to start seeing more people similar to this Kyogre team that used the, where is it? That used the Grass Terra. This was a really good adaptation here with like the Grass Terra Cali and the Grass Terra Ogre, just to say like, hey, I don't lose that mirror. And then you double dip like your C-Bomb for the Kyogre mirror. I think we're going to see more stuff like this moving forward towards NAIC. I think something like this with like maybe even a Bolt here would be a really, really cool like line. If you were able to make something like that work, that'd be kind of rad. But that being said, I think it was a good event overall. Good players, top cut. It was ran correctly from what I heard. So yeah, let me know if you guys want to see more kind of like regional breakdowns where I kind of give my thoughts on what teams did well, what I thought would do well, maybe what I would expect to do well in the future. And I'll try and make more content like that, because I feel like that's the thing that Pokemon's missing, is more people giving like their thoughts on like why these things happen and what we're going to see moving forward, without trying to like hide information or push a narrative. I think it's just, we need more good, honest people just like making content to try and help other people learn. So let me know if you want to see more stuff like this, and I'll try and make more.